Good morning, everybody. Semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet and all things related to the carnivore diet. It is Saturday, the day of the big Ohio State-Michigan game. It's actually only Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. But you guys are seeing this on Saturday. You guys know the drill. I'm sort of starting to get in the right mindset for doing these on a one-day delay. But today we're going to talk about how my Thanksgiving went, how I won, and how I failed. And what does this mean for me moving forward? But I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I really do. Yesterday's video, hopefully I got lots of comments telling me how your day went, because I'd really like to know how other people did. I'm sort of not quite getting started with the video here talking about Thanksgiving, because I'm walking across the field to the dumpster again, taking all of my trash out so I can have both hands free. Sorry if this is a little dark today, you know, picture wise. Okay, hang on just a second. Gotta hit the dumpster here. I'm gonna see if I can do this without shutting you guys off. Yeah, that worked out all right. I'll probably leave that in. But it was just starting to rain when I got back in from Raleigh last night. And it rained all night. Not just a little bit of rain. I mean, we got a lot of rain. So I'm not going over to the park today for a few reasons that we'll talk about starting right now. I had a great start to Thanksgiving. Apparently Anne, my cousin that hosts, she was peripherally aware that I was only eating meat, but apparently the only reason she has a Facebook account is there's a couple of Facebook messenger groups amongst the relatives that she belongs to, and she occasionally posts up a picture of her cute little dogs. But let me back up. I've never met a friendly cat before. I drove over to Barb's house, who's like on the southwest edge of Raleigh, in a town called Holly Springs, if any of you are familiar with the area. And I drove over to there because it's easier to get into her house than it is to get into Ann's, especially on a day with a lot of traffic. So I drove over to Barb's to ride over with her and Ernie, her husband, and they weren't quite ready to go. So I sat down at their kitchen counter, and this really pretty fluffy cat, I should have thought to get my camera out, but my hands were full by that time, because I sat down, and this big beautiful puffball of a cat just jumps right up into my lap to be petted. I was a little shocked at first, but then I, of course, did what most people would do, and that's pet the cat. Never had a cat just jump right in on me like that. Most cats are very standoffish that I've met, until they've been around you a lot. But this one was like, oh, look, somebody new. I bet he'll pet me. And he was right. We got all loaded up and got over to Ann's. Now back to the story where I started. You know, she apparently hadn't actually seen any of my photos. And Ernie and Barb walk in, and I'm kind of behind them, and there's a couple of other people there. So she's talking in the kitchen, gives them a hug, and I'm just kind of standing there waiting my turn because I hadn't seen Ann in person in decades. And it made me feel really good because she turned around and went, "Bob, you're thin." That made me feel really good. I got to see a lot of relatives I'd never seen before. I got to see a lot of relatives that I hadn't seen in decades. My cousin Jim and I had a long conversation. He apparently it's not just down the road, but he's got a beach house east of here, so it'd only be about a 30-minute drive over to his house from here. So I may end up going over there before I head back to Omaha in the spring. Because we had a very good conversation. And of course the relatives I'd never met before, because, you know, Barb is older than me by a couple of years. I think a year, barely. But anyway, she's the closest to me in age, and I believe Ann's the eldest of her sisters. So both of them have kids and some grandkids, and I of course never met any of them. So that was a lot of fun. But anyway, on to my great successes for the day. The guy that brought the brisket made 4 different kinds. There was one that had some kind of sauce on it. Well, they all had a little bit of something on them. But the other 3 were mostly just meat juices. There may have been some sugar involved, I don't know. I don't think so. They didn't taste like they had sugar in them. They were nice, good, fatty cuts of brisket. And I did really well. I only had maybe 2 spoonfuls of the shredded brisket in some kind of a sauce. I forget what he said it was, a mango something sauce. It was really good, but I didn't want to overdo that. I had several big chunks of turkey and a whole bunch of ham. The ham was excellent. In fact, as we were loading up to leave, Barb's like, "You want to just take the rest of that ham home with you?" And I was like, "Well, duh, of course I want to take the ham home with me, but if you have plans for it, then by all means." And she's like, no, you go ahead. So I did. So I'm not real good at judging weights, but it feels like I still got about 3 pounds of ham in my fridge. So I will probably eat on that at least once more. Several big chunks of turkey. It was all really good. And it would have been a perfect carnivore day because I was feeling very satisfied, very filled. I went back up twice, so I had 3 big platefuls of meat. I didn't just pile it all up at once because I know it's the same amount, but getting all that meat on your plate in one shot amongst all those people, I think would have seemed a little piggy. Even though I ended up being a little piggy. I probably ate between the ham and the brisket and the turkey somewhere between 2.5 and 2 3/4 pounds of meat. I was definitely full. I was satiated. I was done. But then the desserts came out. And this is where things went a little sideways. I looked it all over because, I had planned on having something. And there were two things that looked absolutely yummy. There was a pecan pie, or pecan pie if you're from one of those weird places. And there was some cake. It was just about 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches by 2 inches. They were small. They were already cut up into pieces. And it was like a pumpkin spice cake with that really good buttercream frosting. So I looked it all over and decided I'm going to have a small slice of pecan pie and one piece of that cake, and then I'll be done. And I was. I ate a small piece of pecan pie and one of those cakes. The pecan pie was good, but those pumpkin spice cakes were absolutely amazing. You notice I said cakes. We'll get to that in a minute. So that's all I had, and people were in the process of packing up and leaving, and we're all standing around talking. Those of us that aren't ready to leave just yet are standing around talking in the kitchen. And I had picked up, didn't even really realize I was doing it, had picked up another piece of that cake and slowly nibbled on it while we were talking. That's that sugar-addicted brain kicking in. Because remember, before I started on the desserts, I was full. I could have gone out in the other room, sat down, watched football, and been perfectly pleased with Thanksgiving. So I ended up eating 2 pieces of the cake and caught myself casually reaching for a third. And I had to very sternly say to myself, don't do that. Stop now before you go even deeper. So I thought that I was beyond the sugar cravings, but yesterday proved to me that I'm not a moderator. I can't have just a little taste. And what really, I think the cravings, or I should say the temptation to give in, is now completely gone. Because I started on the drive home, I felt fine going back to Barb's, and I was almost back here when I really started to hurt. I felt gassy and bloated. My stomach hurt. I was so distracted by how much I hurt, I missed my exit on the freeway and ended up having to go, like another 12 miles down to the next exit. Take that exit to get back going the other way, and then 12 miles back. So I drove another 24 miles, which basically means the price of gas right now, I cost myself about another $8 for the day because I missed my exit. And then I laid there last night, and the sugar really kicked in. I did not sleep. Well, I think I did finally nod off sometime between 5 and 6 this morning, and woke back up at 8 because the rain had really picked up in intensity and was just pounding down on the top of my trailer. So I felt gassy and bloated. And I am starting to feel better now, but we'll see how far I can get today. Because I woke up this morning to every joint in my body just screaming at me. So I think that's really, now that I know what the sugar's does to me still. I did check my blood sugars and those were fine when I got back to the trailer. So, granted it had been a couple hours since I stopped eating, but yeah, my blood sugar was 82 last night when I got back to the trailer and checked it. So my insulin response seems to be good to taking in sugar, but my body's response to sugar is really, really bad. So remembering how I felt last night and this morning is what I'm going to keep firmly in front of me as we move on down through December, because there's a couple of holiday parties at the church I'm going to go to, and then Christmas Day. I think I'm just going to stay out here at my trailer, and for Christmas Day, maybe that's the day I'll splurge and get a great big ribeye and just have a ribeye for my Christmas dinner and call it done. Because that was rough. I mean, it's been, the last 24 hours have been fantastic, and they've been rough. But I've learned a lesson, which is why I'm so interested in hearing how you guys did on your Thanksgiving. Whether you had a huge fall off the wagon like I did. And I wouldn't call it huge. I mean, the slice of pie was about the size of a pie slice that you'd get at a buffet. You know, maybe 1.5 to 1.75 inches wide at the crust, tapering down to a pie shape. So it was not a huge piece of pie. But having a second one of those cakes that I did not intend to have, there was a lot of sugar involved there. obviously. Well, and a pecan pie is straight sugar. And there's, it could have been whatever kind of shortening they used in the crust. I know there's some shortening in cakes. So it's hard to say. But since having baked goods that I didn't make gave me such a bad reaction, I'm just not tempted at all now. I may feel differently going down, but I don't think I will. I think that one good fall off the wagon to see how my body reacts will probably in the long run end up being a good thing, because now I know, now that I've got all the inflammation out of my body except for this morning, that I just can't do sugar. Not processed sugar like that, not in baked goods. It'll be an interesting experiment on down the line. Not till I get to goal. But it will be an interesting experiment to see how a few carbs in some other stuff react with my system. Because, I'd like to try, when I get to goal, I'd like to try some keto chow stuff and some keto bricks, which both have some carbs. So it'd be interesting to see how my body reacts to those. But that's a whole nother story for another day. Right now, I'm going to try and get a couple more laps in before I take my first break. I'm not going to get as many as usual in today because my joints are starting to loosen up, except my back and my left knee still feel really stiff and sore. But for now, let's cue the music. Okay, cut the music. Thank you. Remember now, don't beat yourself up. If you fell off the wagon for Thanksgiving, just stick to plan and get right back to it today. Jump right back in with your favorite meal and get right back to doing the carnivore diet. Once again, I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Of course, because you're seeing this on Saturday, everyone give me a go Buckeyes. Beat that team up north. We don't say the M word this week. But, yeah. Don't forget to get out there, be 1% better today, folks. I will see you on around the parking lot next time. See? You knew the video wasn't over yet. Remember, if you fell off the wagon, be it Thanksgiving or any other day, do not beat yourself up about it. It's just one day. Just get right back on the wagon and keep pushing forward. Okay, guys, after a little bit of a break, I felt a little better, and I came out and walked a bunch more. I haven't actually looked. I'm somewhere above the 5.5 mile mark, but I don't think I quite got to 6 today. And now I think I am actually done walking. I may come back out this evening, but I doubt it. I'm pretty tired now. It was a long, exhausting night of not sleeping. So don't get down on yourself. Remember to keep a positive attitude and just keep pushing forward one day at a time, 1% at a time. Be 1% better tomorrow, guys, than you were today. I'll see you tomorrow.